The morning sun cast long shadows through the windows of Mel's diner as 83-year-old Dorothy Washington sat quietly in her usual corner booth, stirring cream into her coffee. She had been coming to this same diner every Tuesday for the past 15 years, ever since her husband passed. The waitresses knew her order by heart: 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, and black coffee with just a splash of cream. Dorothy was a small woman with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a simple blue dress and her late husband's watch. Her weathered hands told stories of decades spent as a school principal, and her sharp eyes missed nothing. Today, however, those eyes were about to witness something that would test every ounce of dignity she had built over 8 decades of life. The bell above the door chimed as 2 police officers entered. Officer Martinez, young and eager, followed by Officer Thompson, whose permanent scowl suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. They scanned the diner, their eyes landing on Dorothy. "Ma'am," Officer Thompson approached her table, his voice already carrying an edge of suspicion. "We got a call about someone matching your description causing trouble in the neighborhood." Dorothy looked up from her coffee, her expression calm but puzzled. "Trouble? Officer, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes having my breakfast." "What kind of trouble?" "Don't get smart with us," Thompson snapped. "Someone reported a black woman your age wandering around, looking into car windows, checking door handles." The diner had gone quiet. Other patrons turned to stare, some pulling out their phones. Dorothy felt the familiar sting of humiliation she thought she'd left behind in the 1960s. "Officer, I walked directly from my car to this booth. I haven't been anywhere else." Her voice remained steady, though her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her purse. "I have my receipt right here, and I'm sure the waitress can confirm." "Stand up," Thompson commanded. "We need to search that purse." "Now wait just a minute," Dorothy began. "Ma'am, you can cooperate, or we can do this the hard way," Martinez added, his hand moving toward his belt. Dorothy's mind flashed to the countless times she had to explain to her students about dignity, about standing up for what's right, about the power of knowledge and connections. She thought about her late husband, Judge William Washington, and what he would say about this moment. Slowly, she stood up, her arthritis making the movement painful. But instead of opening her purse for them, she reached into it and pulled out her cell phone. "Officers, before we go any further, I think I should make a phone call." Thompson rolled his eyes. "You calling a lawyer?" "That's your right, but it won't change anything." Dorothy smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. "Not a lawyer, officer. Someone else." She dialed a number she knew by heart and put the phone to her ear. After 2 rings, a familiar voice answered. "Good morning, this is Chief Roberts." "Good morning, Michael," Dorothy said, her voice warm but firm. "This is Mrs. Washington. I'm sitting in Mel's diner on 5th Street, and I have 2 of your officers here who seem to think I'm some sort of criminal. I was wondering if you could help clear up this misunderstanding." The change in the officers' faces was immediate. Thompson's scowl deepened as he began to realize something was very wrong with his assumptions. Martinez looked confused, glancing between his partner and the elderly woman who was speaking to someone as if they were old friends. "Officers Martinez and Thompson," Dorothy continued into the phone, reading their name tags. "Yes, that's right. They received a report about someone my age and description causing trouble in the neighborhood. Apparently looking into cars and trying door handles." She listened for a moment, nodding. "Yes, I'll put you on speaker." Dorothy held the phone out, and Chief Roberts' voice filled the suddenly silent diner. "Officers Thompson and Martinez, this is Chief Roberts. You are currently harassing Mrs. Dorothy Washington, the widow of Judge William Washington and the woman who taught half the police department, including myself, when she was principal of Lincoln Elementary. She also happens to be my daughter's godmother and has been like a grandmother to my children for the past 20 years. Officer Thompson's face had gone pale. Martinez looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The chief continued, "Mrs. Washington, on behalf of the department, I apologize for this treatment. Officers, you will apologize immediately, and then you will return to the station where we will discuss proper procedure for investigating complaints. But Chief, Thompson started, we got a call. Did you verify the complaint? Did you check with the business owners? Did you review any security footage? Or did you just see an elderly black woman and assume she must be guilty of something? The silence that followed was deafening. Dorothy looked at both officers, her expression not angry but disappointed, the same look she used to give students who she knew were capable of better. Officers, she said quietly, I spent 40 years in education. I've seen fear, prejudice, and assumption destroy more potential than I care to count. I also taught many young people who grew up to be police officers, teachers, doctors, and leaders in this community. I taught them that respect, dignity, and the benefit of the doubt should be given to everyone, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. She picked up her coffee cup and took a sip before continuing. I'm not angry with you. I'm disappointed. Not because you're bad people, but because you're better than this. This community deserves better than this. Officer Martinez was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Washington, I'm sorry. There's no excuse for how we treated you. Thompson, sweat beading on his forehead, finally found his voice. Ma'am, we made a mistake. A big mistake. I apologize. Chief Roberts spoke again from the phone. Mrs. Washington, would you like to file a complaint? Dorothy considered this for a moment, looking at both officers. She saw shame in their faces, genuine regret. These weren't bad men, they were men who had acted badly. There was a difference, and she knew it. No, Michael. But I would like these officers to understand something. I've lived through segregation, through the civil rights era, through decades of progress and setbacks. At 83 years old, I shouldn't have to prove my right to exist peacefully in a diner. But more importantly, the next elderly person, black, white, Hispanic, or otherwise, shouldn't have to have connections to the police chief to be treated with dignity. She stood up slowly, gathering her purse. Officers, I hope you'll remember this day. Not as the day you got in trouble, but as the day you learned that everyone has a story, everyone deserves respect, and sometimes the most ordinary-looking person might just surprise you. The entire diner watched as Dorothy placed a $10 bill on the table for her breakfast and tip. As she walked toward the door, she paused and turned back to the officers. By the way, there's a community policing workshop next month at the community center. Judge Washington started it before he passed, and I've been helping run it ever since. If you're interested in being part of the solution, you're welcome to attend. As Dorothy walked to her car, the diner slowly came back to life. The officers stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. They had come in with assumptions and left with a lesson they would never forget. Officer Martinez turned to his partner. Did you know who she was? Thompson shook his head. No. But now I do. And I'm going to make sure I never make assumptions like that again. As they walked back to their patrol car, Thompson pulled out his phone and made a note, Community Policing Workshop, next month. Meanwhile, Dorothy drove home, her hands steady on the wheel. She wasn't shaking anymore. She had faced down much worse than this in her life, and she had survived it all with grace and dignity. More importantly, she had turned what could have been just another incident of harassment into a teaching moment. At home, she called her friend Sarah, who had been encouraging her to write down some of her life stories. Sarah, Dorothy said, settling into her favorite chair, I think I'm ready to start that book we talked about. I have a feeling there are more lessons to share. That evening, the local news ran a story about community policing and the importance of treating all citizens with dignity and respect. They interviewed Chief Roberts, who spoke about ongoing training and the need for officers to engage with the community they serve. But the story that really mattered was the one that spread through the diner, through the police department, and through the community. The story of an 83-year-old woman who showed that real power isn't about having connections or making threats. Real power is about maintaining your dignity, standing up for what's right, and turning moments of injustice into opportunities for education and growth. 3 weeks later, Officers Martinez and Thompson were among the first to sign up for Dorothy's community policing workshop. And on Tuesday mornings, they could sometimes be seen having coffee at Mel's diner, learning from the woman who had taught them that everyone deserves respect, and that sometimes the most powerful phone call you can make is the one that builds bridges instead of burning them. Dorothy Washington continued her Tuesday morning breakfasts at Mel's diner. But now, she wasn't just the quiet elderly woman in the corner booth. She was a reminder that dignity, wisdom, and the courage to speak truth to power can come in the most unexpected packages. And sometimes, the most important lessons are taught not in classrooms, but in the everyday moments when we choose to treat each other with the respect and humanity we all deserve.